So, technical break. Anyone needs anything?
Just cough my lungs out a bit.
Yeah, that's that works.
So the tax man, you say?
The tax man, I say yes. In March in Norway, you get your tax assessment notice, or whatever it's called in English, where the government has tallied up what you've earned and what you need to pay in tax. And then, of course, it's always like you get a text message when it's ready. You can log on to the Norwegian tax administration's webpage and you can check. And of course, do I get money back or do I owe money? And usually it's been a case of getting money back, um, because I have a relatively stable income and all my deductibles are the same and whatnot. But this year, I got an amount owed. It's not the end of the world. It's roughly £100, but I was hoping it was the other way around. And it's annoying because nothing has really changed, which means I need to go in and double check all the numbers. I do that every year, but as long as I get money back, it's on the safe side. So if I don't find any huge errors that can give me more money back, it's kind of okay. But when I owe them money, I'm gonna turn every stone. That takes more time.
Have
So
they
are
changed any
you?
laws or something like that? Because
No,
if you haven't
I'm aware.
changed, then something else must have changed.
Yeah. But then again, haven't we all changed? I mean, a year is a long time, but yeah.
You're dealing with a tax man. They don't deal in, hypothetical philosophy like that.
No, no, it's
They're dealing in cold, hard numbers.
yeah.
So are you technically self-employed then, if you have to do your own taxes?
No, it
No.
is your workplace. They have to file a notice how much they have paid you last year. So
Hmm.
they file that to the government, and then the banks they file all the debt that you have or money in your accounts, and then of course like the kindergartens and everything you have to pay for that is deductible, they have to report that in. So everything is reported into the tax administration. And today they don't have people sitting doing the laborious work of like putting everything together. It's just automatically generated, and you get a report. And you need to check that is this amount correct and not. And in 98% of the time, if you're just a regular employee, then it's just like, this looks okay, and it's sent in, and then it's processed. But of course, if you have stocks and shares in companies abroad or a bank account in another country, if you have dual citizenship, there is a lot more back and forth that the government might not automatically get as input. But I'm not in that situation, so it's basically just to look at the numbers and yeah, that's the same as the statements that I've got from the bank, and like press OK, and then you get money back. Although now I'm getting an invoice, so I would like for that invoice to go away, but yeah. I mean, there's a lot of deductibles you can file, but then you'd be lying and de facto being a criminal. So I'm not doing that. But I'm gonna look at
So
the list if there is something that's relevant for me. There might be things that has changed last year that I did not think but are now relevant. But yeah. Oh,
these packages from AliExpress and these rocket motors, these are legitimate business expenses that you've put through, right?
I think the business has to earn money for that to be relevant.
yeah, but it's funny that you say that because I do have a company, and it was registered just to keep the family name. and I'm not using it for anything. So every year it's in minus because during the year you have to pay like a couple of £100 in fees and whatnot. And then I thought it would be nice this year if the negative trend stops, and the next year I would like to break even. I don't want to, and I mean if I could make money, that would be nice. But if you make money, you have to pay tax on that amount. So what I've been doing now, I know how much money I've spent on fees and whatnot, and then I've taken that amount and I made an invoice to myself for video editing, so that the company breaks even, because the company is a separate legal entity to me as a private person. So you can invoice yourself, perfectly legal. But I just have to make sure that I don't invoice myself too much, because then I have to pay taxes on money that I've invoiced myself for video editing. But I have been thinking, though, I could just have the company doing all the video editing, and like making all the, like, running it as a production company. So all the YouTube videos, everything you buy, you can deduct. But the problem is I'm not making enough money for it to make sense. So you're just piling on more expenses, but there is no profit to deduct from. So it just makes for a lot of work on my end that doesn't pay off. But of course, if you ended up making millions of dollars on YouTube, then of course setting up a company to deduct all the crap that you buy, that would make perfect sense. But that's not, by the rate this is going, it's negative 500 years. So
I don't think any of us are going to be in that position.
no.
Never say never. You know, you can manifest these things, but
I saw,
you'll be realistic as well.
I think it was Davey504, and he's a huge YouTuber. I think he has 10 million, and he just showed the last video how he was struggling with copyright strikes and how many 100,000 views he had the first week, and that made him £100. So like, you have to consecutively just get videos with several million views for it to be a living wage. And when the people that has worked for 10 years, well, it was easier to get to that stage, now are struggling because the algorithm and the AI slop is cutting them down. So they're looking like, I can keep this up forever if this is the trend. And of course, when they are struggling, you kind of realize you're never getting there. So, but it's the discussion of infinity. Can you have one infinity more infinity than the other? Because infinity can't be measured, and it's like, I could never reach that level before, but now I cannot reach that level more than, I mean, it's you're reaching infinity territory here, and then regular maths don't apply in the same way. So should my could you start with irrational numbers on your YouTube account, or displaying theoretical subscribers? I have 4,000 I number of subscribers. What's the I? Oh, that's the irrational number, I.
They're imaginary
Yeah.
viewers. How many imaginary views do I have? Well, millions. I imagine I have them.
The infinite improbability YouTube channel.
I mean, they say dress for the job you want. What the one you have, like, all right, so I'll have imaginary subscribers that I imaginary address with, yeah.
I mean, it did sound a bit like my oldest, who perhaps spent too much time watching people play video games on YouTube. Because when he sits in the sofa and play video games, he generally just calls out stuff because that's what they do in videos. So he's basically streaming without the camera, so to say.
Yeah.
I still don't get that. I still don't. My brain cannot compute getting enjoyment watching somebody else play a video game. Surely playing the video game is the enjoying thing.
That I've thought about that as well, and it spells out kids because kids. There are two things about them. One, they don't have disposable income, so I mean, saving up for a new game takes months and months and months. That's rough. And two, they are not that skilled when it comes to some stuff. I mean, sure, they have reflexes like nothing, but I mean, logical thinking and actually pacing yourself and not stressing out, that's not really their thing. So watching someone else who is actually skilled at playing can be rather enjoyable for them, especially when it's like an older sibling or an older, think of it like an older cousin that's showing you a game and he wants to hang out with you and chat and have a fun time. That's the feeling I get from them. This is like a big brother or a big sister who actually takes time and lets you sit in while they're playing a game. That's more or less why those exist in my mind.
Fair enough. But on the flip side of that, and maybe it's because of the age I am, and none of this shit existed, obviously, when I was a kid's age. If you went round to somebody's house and they had like a Super Nintendo or something, and then you have one controller,
Yeah.
sitting them watch there doing stuff which you would do different would be fucking agonizing. Let me have a go.
That was the way we did it, as I remember when I was a kid. But you went to someone, and most games weren't 2-player. So then you had a go. Okay, you get to play until you die, and then it's the other guy's turn. But the friend you're home, I mean, that person knows the game inside and out. So they play for like half an hour, and then you get the controller and die after 2 minutes.
Yeah,
And then it's a half an hour of them playing again and back and forth.
I hate, because of that reason, I hated that, going to like playing video games. That was so boring because I just ended up sitting watching. So once you got your computer in the golden age where most games were freeware or easily copyable, then of course you could have your computer, and then it just peaked when you could play games over the network, because then you had multiplayer. So you did not sit watch the others play while you were waiting your turn for the controller. And then you had that sweet spot for 5 years until everything turned sour, and now you have to pay a lot of money for subscriptions for games and whatnot. So.
I'm much preferred single player games. I actually, me and a friend, when growing up, we had a rather good setup because he was much better than me at the actual playing, the timing jumps and fighting and that sort of thing. But I was much better at thinking, oh, what should we do? How to solve the puzzle and that sort of thing. So I was a good bysitter, and he was holding the controller, and I was engaged in the game as well. So that worked rather well. But yeah, when you don't get those kind of games where that's applicable, then it's not that fun.
And I had a different kind of setup, but a good setup with a friend, because we did gaming as well. And there were some games that made you, if not play a separate game in real life, but it was a side quest. Because when you had games in the olden days, in like the early 90s, and copying became a thing, then some game companies, they tried to avoid that by putting in copyright protection. And in the very early days, you had a game series called Leisure Suit Larry. And how they came around that, there was a lot of games that started this, that to start the game, you would be prompted a questions. And some games were in the middle of the game, just stopping and prompting you with a question where you needed to go in the instruction manual that followed the game and just, what is the word on page 47? Or in Leisure Suit Larry, luckily it was easier because they asked you a question. I mean, who's the fifth president of the United States? Or Uh,
That's what the age check.
what's the fastest between an African and a European swallow, and so on. But the problem was this was in the 90s, so we did not have Google. We could not Google this shit. So the questions that popped up, we had to basically, we had the encyclopedia. If you could find the answer there, great. But if not, you had to guess. And then it was a chance. So then if you answered wrong, you had to, okay, so we know it's not that. And of course, after months of playing this game, you have agonizingly been through all the questions. So then you had a paper with all the questions for Leisure Suit Larry 1. And then, of course, that became a commodity. So that had a value in school. So you could sell that. We did not, we just gave it away. But obviously, you could sell it for like £5 because people were like struggling with the same questions. So that was like kind of a side quest to any game.
And it was also, you needed to learn some English because you were sitting with a dictionary also, because that was rather complicated questions, the age verification ones. There were a lot of words I learned that way, just playing Larry 1.
Exactly. And then you have, I think it was Police Quest, which was a game where you could move around. But the way you did was like writing in, walk to door, open door. And of course, we got a copy of that game, but not the manual, of course. So we did not know what commands existed. That was in it. So of course, we learned walk. All right, he walks. And then there's a door. All right, door. No. Open. No. Open door. Oh yes, that's open. And then you had to write down. So it's the same. You have a list by trial and error on commands. But yeah, that's a thing of the past. Luckily, I would say.
Yeah.
It is HMS Belfast.
Oh, nice to know.
Yeah, that's
I had to check. I had to know. I knew it was, but I had to confirm it. Although I don't know where the cannons are pointing. I'm going to find out again.
Yeah. Well, will you do that? What was the other thing that you said, KJ, that we should remember to check?
no clue.
No.
Probably not important.
Okay, so let's leave a 5-second blank spot here, because when I'm doing the edit, I can go back and listen, and I can check, and I can put in a voiceover here.
Well, this
Oh,
would
so that was what it was. All right, nice. Now
yeah,
we
of
know.
course.
Yeah.
that'd be a great opportunity to say, did you enjoy my new video?
Yeah. I mean, you found the storyline. I like that. The angle that you found was amazing with the footage that you had.
Or an apology why there hasn't been a new video.
Yeah. Yeah, sad that you didn't make it, but then maybe next week. Then. So now we have covered both cases. So I'll just cut in whatever is applicable. If the video came out or not. So.
Choose your own podcast.
Oh, here we go. This is quoting directly from the Londonist website. It sounds like an urban myth. The forward-facing guns on the HMS Belfast are permanently positioned to score a direct hit on the London Gateway service station at Scratchwood.
Okay.
It's no myth. The target is intentional. If the 6-inch guns were loaded with shells, they could deliver an awesome pounding to the M1 cafe and toilet stop. Each shell weighs 112 pounds, similar to a sack of coal, and much more explosive. The forward guns could fire 8 rounds per minute, meaning that Scratchwood services would be obliterated in seconds.
But the question is, who went there and what was done to them there to bear that grudge? That's what I want to know.
Severe case of food poisoning or something like that. Have that place made something of it? Been the target of...
Well, it says it's intentional, but it doesn't say why it's intentional. Targeting was decided in 1971, the year the HMS Belfast was moored in the Pool of London to serve as a museum. It goes without saying that the Belfast never had cause to bombard the motorway service station, but the guns had to point somewhere, and targeting a famously humdrum location could only help the press and popular attention. All right. So they pointed a service station on the M1 because it's really boring, and why would they? Well, they've got to point somewhere.
I was hoping for a more
Yeah, me too.
steamy, yeah.
There was this guy who stole my wife, so now I'm pointing
Exactly.
at his house.
I'm sure in 1971 he lived there, but he's moved now.
Going back and repositioning the cannons.
Oh, there we go. Fascinating
Now we know.
information.
Yes.
Now we learned something today.
Yeah. I was trying to spot, well, did we write anything down to Google later? I can't even read my own writing. Fantastic audio. This isn't
yeah.
it? Oh, you can read the tension is building.
I just crossed out. I had storage and the taxman. That was what I had today, both for the main episode and the half pint. So that being said, though, you sent us a screenshot of your notebook earlier today in the, what did you call it? The podcast admin group. Got a name now. And it is, I haven't written in what do you call it when the letters are attached to each other, like
Cursive.
cursive? Yeah, haven't written in that in years, and I also that has done something to my ability to read others people's cursive. I really needed to concentrate
To read my chicken scratch.
Yeah. But that being said, it's yours is in the class of readable. I've seen people writing stuff that I can't even understand how people can get something out of it. I mean, it would probably have been easier to read hieroglyphs at some point. So.
I think I can read 3/4 of the words individually, or maybe I can't read all of it. But I mean, it's a lot better than my mom's handwriting. She always write cursive, and now everything is just the same flowy lines. It's just like someone tried a pen. You maybe see a capital letter, and then it's a blah blah, and you have to guess what
and
you've
that's writing in a very small notebook on my knee at an awkward angle. So it's usually a bit more legible than that. Whilst waiting for the supermarket to open, where I was completely unable to buy anything tool related to give away for the giveaway. Usually they provide, but today they did not. Maybe next week.
Maybe next week. But speaking of handwriting, many years ago, I learned the letters of one of the alphabets that Tolkien made in his books, and then of course me and my sister used to write back and forth in that, but of course in Norwegian, just using those letters. And then of course that was very short lived, but there was a few letters there that got me thinking, this looks better than a Norwegian. And of course in Norway we have 3 additional letters to the English one. It's the famous Ö from Röd, which we already discussed. It's the O with the line through it. And then, of course, Swedish, they have a O with like 2 dots or 2 marks above them. Hyphens, are that the proper name?
Is it umlat?
I'm not sure. And then, of course, for the letter O, which is A, you have a circle above it. And it's the same with the I. You have a circle above it. But writing circles is not as fast as just putting a hyphen on there. So I'm writing all my letters if they have like the small thingy bit above them. I just use a line. And of course, if my Norwegian teacher had seen that today, he would downgrade me and kick me out of school. But I like the look of it, and everybody understands what I'm writing. And at some point when I was like probably 17, I just started doing that, and I still do it, and nobody has commented on it. So either they just don't care what I'm writing and don't understand it anyway, or it's like makes perfect sense.
So does that add to confusion with your O with a line through it, which is different to a 0 with a line through it? Or do you not do a 0 with a line through it?
Don't do a 0 with a line through it.
No?
But the 0 with the line, isn't that line vertical inside without breaching the outer perimeter of the circle?
No,
No, it's
No.
on an
diagonal.
angle.
Much like your
Ugh.
and it is umlats or two dots above it. And I mean, in Sweden we have the a is an a with two dots, so that would be confusing if you just draw a line over it, because then you would think it was an a. But you write a as an a and an e together, don't you?
Yeah, if you squish those together, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Those two.
this is the best podcast content ever, talking about letters.
Let's
where we
discuss letters from different languages.
Yes, with details to describe them in a language that you don't know. So this is
Well,
brilliant.
it's like in German, isn't it? The double S is
Yes.
Oh, the
looks like it's like an
Scharfe yeah.
upside down and backwards B or something. But apparently
Kind of beta.
that's dying out because getting that on the keyboard is really difficult.
Yeah.
It's a Unicode shortcode, so most people just type double S, and actually people writing that is dying off. So I read.
Yeah, that is correct. I've heard her. I've heard that as well. So since we both have heard it, I'm just assuming that's correct.
Then that is true.
I mean, that's what you get in for the passport as well. Instead of an A, you get an AE. Instead of an O, you get double A. And instead of it's I don't remember. But yeah, you don't get the fancy ones. You have to adhere to your boring.
Yeah. Well, of course, something like that.
That's a stick figure.
No, that's your point of origin in Stargate.
But
Of course it is.
that being said, though, and this is actually something if I were to write out what, that would be what question mark exclamation mark, because it's like you're surprised. And if you could combine those two, but you can, it's called an interrobang, and it looks like this. That's amazing, but I haven't found and not all fonts have it. So there is it's you might know the ASCII code for it, but if you're not using the right font, you won't get anything. But I'm looking forward to that becoming universal on all fonts and keyboards.
There is an episode of 99% Invisible dedicated entirely to the interrobang.
There is actually a Norwegian podcast called Interrobang.
Nice.
Where it's a physicist and a biologist and a lot of people that they are discussing random stuff from the world of physics or mathematics or whatever small niche you can think of. They find a subject and make it interesting. But it is in Norwegian, so it is rather difficult for
Someone who doesn't speak
non-natives.
Norwegian.
Yeah.
Right, here we, for anyone interested. There is a link to that podcast episode in the podcast description, maybe, if anybody puts it in.
Yes, I'm gonna do my very best to put it in there.
Oh yeah.
Splendid.
I'm gonna Google. I'm not even sure how to ask the question. What are the things above letters called? That's an understandable question, right? Oh yeah, the things above, below, or through letters are called diacritics or diacritical marks, only referred loosely as accents. These symbols, and then there's a lot of examples that I've been thinking of, are added to letters to indicate a change of pronunciation, stress, or meaning, common in languages like French, Spanish, German, and at least all the Norwegian, Swedish, they are based on the Germanic part of the language tree. So yeah. So then you have the acute accent. That's the little short one above the letters, and then they have grave accent. It's the exact same one. It's just mirrored. I never know when to use which one of those.
Yeah, me neither.
Grave.
And then you have the circumflex. That is the if you put two circumflexes after each other, it's like the rising eyebrows emoji. And then it's the tilde, which is the squiggly bit that looks like a gummy worm that you put over the N in señor. So it's used a lot in Spanish. So yeah. But the two things that you talked about, yeah, umlaut or diaresis.
Diarrhea.
Yeah.
Diaresin.
Diaresis, yes.
Direwolf.
Of course,
And is there pointing?
I could print this list and put it above my screen, but I will never be able to remember any of these. But I mean, I know they're there and I can Google them if needed, but yeah.
But who among us knows all of that by heart?
None. But here we are using language, communicating to ourselves and our listeners. Isn't the world of language amazing?
It makes stuff a lot easier to have language, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing that we don't have to do this podcast using hieroglyphs.
Or dance.
Interpretive
dance.
That's the next big thing for podcasts, I think.
That's the next big
Now
thing
that
for
the
you
video
two,
format
maybe.
is there.
I'm out of that.
It's dance cast. That's yeah.
Yep. You can put on your leotards. And
No, you don't want anything obstructing you.
wow. You're so sweet.
Yeah, because you need the accents of pronunciation.
The full range of the body.
Yeah.
Action image exchange.
It's the squiggly bit pointing upwards or downwards that gives a different meaning to that gesture altogether. So.
The squiggly bit is important.
Yep.
I think that's there's
Exactly.
there's no way to go from there. That's a universal truth right there.
Yep. And if you're having a hard time getting the squiggly bit to look interested, just attach a rocket motor.
Exactly.
I think that's the worst advice we've ever given.
Oh dear.
Good night again.
Good night, I guess.
I think that's probably a good place to lop it off.
To continue on the theme.
It's nice though because then we can save to the next episode. Because if there is a raging success, with the guillotine, then of course we can talk about what other things would be nice to chop at a guillotine. So
I have
then,
some ideas, but we can save that to next
we
week.
save that in the next episode. And for our listeners, yeah, you have the WhatsApp group, so share your ideas,
Exactly.
good or bad.
Just what would you like to see severed? Send us a postcard.
With a dance.
Or hieroglyphs. Or cuneiform. Linear B. Fortran.
Or a semaphore, isn't it, with the flags?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Or Morse code, whatever. I mean, we are.
Just send a couple of flags. That'll sort it out. One flag every day. To spell it out.
It'll have to be a short message to get in between recordings. Turn it off.
Turn it off. Oh, we're still recording. I thought you pressed stop recording eons ago.